Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Axonize's web conference. Retire quota faster on a larger scale with Axonize's disruptive smart building and IoT solutions. To kick off the call from Axonize, we have Donna Perlstein, VP of Marketing. Donna, you now have the floor.
Great, thank you. So thanks for taking the time to join us today. We are here to explore why you can retire quota faster with Axonize. Also to provide key selling points to guide you in your conversations with prospects, to delve into how Axonize works hand in hand with Microsoft Azure, to run through some exciting use cases, and to explore a live demo with one of our leading customers, T-Systems. We'll also do a Q&A at the end to address any questions that you may have. Please message in your questions throughout the webinar so we can address them at the end. At this time, I would like to introduce today's speakers. Johnny Bratton is the CEO of Axonize, and Roland Bowden, IoT Product Manager of Smart Buildings at T-Systems. So over to you, Johnny.
Thank you, Donna. It's clear that the smart building industry is quickly growing, and more businesses and facilities are taking notice and investing. Axonize is one of the key disruptors driving this market today. We serve as the only IoT platform purpose-built for the orchestration of smart building projects. Together with Azure, Axonize has been able to provide an end-to-end solution serving many industries and helping customers launch over 1,700 IoT projects worldwide in production. Here are some crucial points for you as a Microsoft seller. Overall projects lead to cross-sell deals that close in 3 to 6 months and a deal size of $500K to $3 million annually. Smart building specific cross-sell deals close in 1 to 2 months with annual recurring deals of $200K to $750. Selling Axonize means $10,000 per month per account. Of course, it can be less or even more depending on the size and requirements of the account. There are several ways in which Axonize enhances IoT Central. Most notably, IoT Central alone does not support legacy devices, and it mainly targets hardware manufacturers, whereas Axonize is the only IoT platform purpose-built for the smart enterprise. Axonize sits on top of IoT Central to support a variety of IoT protocols and features. Here we can see what Axonize covers within the IoT value chain. Axonize can run on any pass, connect to any sensor, and integrate with any legacy systems. We provide from the digital and device twin through rules engine, data visualization, analytics, and the application itself. Axonize enables the monitoring and managing all smart building operations. Easy to use interface. Axonize is fully configurable without the need of development resources, and implementation takes mere weeks. Axonize's benefits include the orchestration of all facilities from a single pane of glass. Customers, thanks to the architecture, customers can start small, say 1 meeting room, and scale at their own pace. We offer a rich ecosystem of partners covering sensors, applications, system integrators, and so on. Near zero impact on IT, and solutions are fully customizable. Some of Axonize smart building use cases include space utilization, energy efficiency, asset management within the building, occupancy and maintenance, hot desk, hotel room optimization, and so on. Some of our customers on the smart building application are ISS, DHL, Schneider Electric, Microsoft, AM Capital, HP, and so on. On the IoT platform side, we have service providers such as T-Systems, Wipro, BMW, Bezeq, Syntel, Optus, and so on. Now let's chat through some of the Axonize smart building projects. ISS is one of the largest facility management companies worldwide, with managing more than 35,000 buildings. ISS reduces operational costs by optimizing the cleaning schedule. They use service buttons in critical areas to notify their employees when service is needed. They also use smart dispensers and bins to analyze how they are being used and receive alerts when bins are almost full or dispensers are almost empty. And these are just a few of the use cases. There are many more. Bezeq, the Israeli largest telcos, they have many different industries and solutions. One of them is a smart data center. Bezeq's customers are using Axonize to monitor data centers and server rooms, from very small to very, very large data centers, monitoring both the server status, CPU usage, hard drives, and more, combined with the environmental monitoring, such as temperature, access control, flood detectors, smog detectors, and so on, all in one application. Megla is a German system integrator. They use Axonize to monitor the weight of the snow on rooftops. As you probably know, Germany gets lots of snow, and many buildings have collapsed due to the weight of the snow. So they installed sensors on buildings to detect when the weight of the snow reaches the limit and alert. Optus, an Australian telcos, managing shopping malls chain in Australia. This one is not yet closed, but very close to signing. Savills, also one of the largest facility management, managing a Deutsche Bank building in London. This one is also not closed. We are waiting for the IPO, but WeWork plans to establish a new facility management service for building owners who want to have a WeWork-like building. So WeWork will use the Axonize platform to provide the facility management services to such building owners. And that's it from my side. Over to Dana.
Thank you, Johnny. So at this point, we're excited to have Roland Baldin, IoT Product Manager of Smart Buildings at T-Systems on the line. Roland will speak about T-Systems' live smart building projects with Axonize, and he will also run through a demo of the Axonize platform. So over to you, Roland.
Okay, thank you, Donna, for this. Maybe some words why we are doing smart building with Axonize, and what was the reason why we are looking to some specific use cases. So some years ago, we started together with, as Janis just said, ISS, for example, some other real estate companies, a use case analysis, and we found out that there are actually more or less three major groups of use cases. So groups, space monitoring, for example. So everything was related to measure if a room is occupied or not, if a room is used or not, or if a door or window is closed or open. So everything about space, and measuring and monitoring and analyzing and reporting. And then another use case group was, we call this room comfort monitoring. So everything about temperature, humidity, CO2, comfort parameters of the people working in the room, but also to measure temperature in buildings, such for example, for the cool chain. So the comfort monitoring was also this kind of use case group. Then we have something like flow of people, measuring how many people are entering the building in the morning, for example. So if you know how many people entering the building between 8 and 10 in the morning, you know how much food you need to prepare during lunchtime in the canteen, for example, and things like this. Then we have another group is everything about smart services, so cleaning the building, doing catering in the building, and getting the secure documents container from the building. Then, of course, this is a big topic, energy efficiency. It's always a big topic there, and everything was related to energy consumption, to temperature, to to light and all this stuff, and to measure it and to find potentials to save energy consumption. And last but not least, the sixth group, which is very important, condition monitoring. So everything and predictive maintenance to systems such as elevators, heating systems, cooling systems. So, and you can see here in this slide, the major three use case groups are space monitoring, which means more or less in many cases to find out in which way, for example, office space is used. So every one of you knows office space is quite expensive, and actually companies spend, after the costs for the people, at the building related costs of a company are the second highest position for a company. So of course, every company is looking now for potentials to save money in this domain, and to create shared office space to make sure the office space is used optimally. This is one target. The other one, of course, comfort parameters like temperature, humidity, temperature, light, to keep those on a optimal, within an optimal range, to make the people coming together, that they like to come to work. So for example, in my company, we have always the option between, and many of you know this as well, between working at home office, or going to the office. And also from the career perspective, good working conditions today are very important to get talented people to your company. So comfort parameters to monitor them, to control them, and to bring them to the optimal range. Service quality, of course, cleaning, this is a standard service, cleaning everywhere, everything, but also catering services and all this stuff can be addressed with IoT. And as I said before, to save unnecessary costs in the energy domain, heating and lights. And last but not least, to implement a system, an automatic alarm system which notifies you or responsible people in case one of these key performance parameters or some characteristics are going above a critical value. So we are looking to those use cases and use case groups. Donna, could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. And I think between 80 and 90% of the buildings are older than 10 or 15 years. And of course, those buildings, they are not high-tech buildings, very modern buildings. They are full of sensors already from scratch. The sensors, they put the information on, they call building automation networks. But most of the buildings, they don't have things like this. So we are looking and we're providing a system to install retrofit IoT, retrofit sensors to measure the room usage and the use of the room occupancy, to measure the comfort parameter within the rooms, or to measure whether the doors are open or closed. This could also, there's also a security aspect in it, for example, fire doors, which have been closed all the time, so you can monitor them whether they're really closed, because many of those doors, because they are really, really heavy, they're kept open by the people. So you can install sensors to monitor this and to create alarms if they're kept open. And last but not least, in times of open space, shared desk, you can monitor whether a desk is used or not, for example. All these sensors, which are installed all over the building, need to be managed. The data need to be collected, need to be brought into a system. The sensors need to be managed, and the data need to be evaluated to create alarms and things like this. Exactly for these things, we use Axonize. Could you go on the next slide, please? So the idea is to deploy, distribute sensors all over the building to measure and to create to measure the real-time characteristics of the building, bring the data into the cloud through Axonize, and with a little bit of stream analytics to create alarms, to detect critical conditions, and to integrate these alarms and conditions into the enterprise IT. So this is actually, this is one of the most important things, because why we are doing IoT in buildings, actually we want to integrate the real world entities, the building, the floors, the thing, the desk or the rooms and whatever. We want to integrate them with the enterprise IT. Why? Because we want to impact the business, the reality, and the reality is managed by the business processes through the enterprise IT. That's why to integrate the reality, the real world entities, the things, we need the sensors to understand the real-time characteristic of those on one hand side. On the other hand side, we need to integrate the enterprise IT, such as ERP systems, CASM, so we call this computer-aided facility management systems, workflow engines, PLM system, all this stuff. So without those integrations, especially the enterprise IT integration, you lose a lot of value of IoT, because it's much more difficult to create an impact to the workflow, and the business processes. Donna, could you go to the next slide, please? And exactly for this scenario, we built together with the colleagues of Axonize, and on top of the system of Axonize and Microsoft Azure, we pre-integrated out of the box retrofit sensors which are battery driven, because that's Murphy's Law. Everywhere where you want to install a sensor, you don't have a power supply, so you need to have a battery, and of course radio, because of course you don't have network connection available, so you need to the sensor needs to use radio technologies for communication. And this is one thing. So be able to distribute and to install retrofit sensors very easily, to configure those sensors as devices in the system on Axonize on the IoT platform, to configure them in terms of making them available, to set the communication parameters, for example, on one hand side, but also to group those sensors and bring them in relationships to the real world entities, to the things. Because, for example, if I measure the temperature with a sensor, of course, the temperature is also brought into relationship to a specific room in a specific floor. And this is done, of course, by Axonize. And last but not least, you can analyze those data, and you can implement your own applications and using the API of Axonize and to create for all the different user groups who are interested in this information, its own highly specialized application. Could you go to the next slide, Donna, please? Oh, this was the next slide, Donna? Could you go to the next one, please? Oh, okay. So what I just said is we need to integrate by using sensors the things of IoT, the real world entities, with the enterprise IT, which we see in this slide, all the different types of systems. And if you look to them, the main purpose of those systems is to manage a workflow. The MES systems, they manage production, manufacturing workflows. PLM manages development and product lifecycle and workflows, CRM and all the ERP. So all of them, they're managing the workflow. And that's why the integration between the IoT platform, Axonize, and the enterprise IT is really, really crucial. And of course, you need the standard components and the standard capabilities of an IoT platform in Axonize. Like you need to be able to integrate different devices with different communication protocols, with different data formats. So you have a data structure gateway to translate data formats from a specific sensor on the data format on the platform, and you have the protocol gateways to be able to accept data through different communication protocols such as MQTT, HTTP, and. Then, of course, you have the device management, what I said, because you want to to manage all the sensors and the gateways which you have in the field. You need to manage the users and the events, the data which are coming from the sensors. Very important, the rule engine on top, because the rule engine evaluates the data coming from the sensors and carrying out actions in direction of users and other systems. And of course, you can create dashboards. It's like pre-configure specific views to your data. And with the help, on top of the API, you can integrate many different systems, and of course, you can develop your own applications. Donna, could you go to the next slide, please? So as I just said, the key and the main functions and groups of Axonize are, of course, the main purpose is being an IoT integration platform to integrate sensors which are installed and integrated with a building, with the enterprise IT, with the workflow management system, with the analytics systems, and so on, to manage the devices out in the field, of course, to manage the users which have access to the devices and to the data, to manage the data, all the events which are coming from the sensors, to do simple data analytics in terms of statistics on the time series data coming from the sensor. So it's the topic artificial intelligence and all these analytics, high-end analytics. So this is a different domain. The idea of this system is to provide simple data analytics for the experts on one hand side, and of course, being able to provide the data to other high-end analytic systems to do this artificial intelligence stuff. Rule engines, of course, to define rules to the data stream coming from the sensors, and last but not least, the API. So, Donna, could you jump to the next slide, please? And then I would open up the demo. Flop. So now you see here that's Axonize on top of Microsoft Azure. As Janis just said before, the main entry point for all the data is the IoT Hub, and with all the capabilities which are provided by the IoT Hub. But you can see here as I just said, you can structure and manage the devices as groups. And for example, this is an example of one of our buildings here in Germany. Actually, that's called the Design Gallery, in which the Deutsche Telekom shows innovative technologies. And we installed here our building monitoring and analytics system. And you can see various different types of sensors. And we have sensors, for example, the walkway, it's motion sensors, temperature sensors to measure the motion in the different presentation areas. We have the presentation a kind of showroom here. So we measure here, you can see that's a CO2 sensor, but not only a CO2 sensor, the sensor motion measures also the light, the temperature, humidity. It's a combination and the motion as well. Then we have, for example, here, that's a fridge and the freezer in the home zone area. And this is actually quite interesting. As I said before, in the building domain, it's really important to be able to have battery-driven, at least battery-driven. I mean, if you have a device which even doesn't require battery because it's using solar cells, all this stuff is even better, but at least the battery. So battery-driven and sensors with radio communication available for fridges and freezers is quite difficult because, maybe technologies such as Bluetooth or Zigbee, So they have problems. Part of them, they have problems with the freezer, to get out of a freezer or a fridge. So we are using technologies such as LoRaWAN or narrowband IoT, which has a really good deep in-house penetration. That's why a fridge is not a problem for those technologies. But you can see here we have a freezer. There's one temperature sensor in the freezer with currently there's minus 19 degrees, and a fridge. There should be a fridge. I hope I can select this. Yeah. The fridge has got 10 degrees, so a little bit too warm, I would guess. But anyhow, so temperature sensor for the fridge. We have here down here the restrooms. The restroom with different type of sensors. In this case, that's a door sensor for the door. And for example, this is a vibration counter sensor from an ocean, which measures the soap dispenser. And you can see here really much these sensors which are here. For example, that's a walkaway sensors are coming from one vendor. The temperature sensors from the fridge coming from another vendor. And the door sensors, for example, for the restrooms come from a different vendor. So in the building you have many different types of sensors using different types of technologies coming from different vendors. And actually, this is a challenge to integrate all these heterogeneous infrastructure into one horizontal IoT platform. Because at the end of the day, you want to have all this data in one system, because you want to do the analytics, and you want to do the data integration to other systems from this integration point. You don't want to have for each different type of sensor a different backend system in place. And actually, this is one of the challenging things. So you can see here, you can group the sensors. This is part of the device management. Of course, you can define sensor types in the system. Here you can see we have many different types of sensors, like we have actually that's a gateway from Vago. We have some sensors from TrackNet, some sensors from Tactilic integrated. We have sensors from SDI, a company from Netherlands. Skiply, that's a feedback button integrated. So many different types of sensors from many vendors are integrated and ending up with the data in the same system. Of course, you see here user management, role management. You can define rules which are applied to the incoming data stream, and you can activate and deactivate them, such as if the CO2 level too high, you can define a condition, flop, and you can define an action, like send an SMS or send a web service to another system, or even send a command to a remote device. Last but not least, you can define dashboards in which you pre-configure your views, and they're always looking the same. Like this is a view, the dashboard for the restroom. So we can see here how often the door has been opened of the male restroom, today, 35 times. And this means today there's a lot of traffic, actually, because visitors are brought to the design gallery. During the last 7 days, 110 times. Of course, you can have graphs for a specific time period. This is the number of door openings over the last 7 days for the male restroom. This is the last 30 days. And this could be quite interesting. Here, this statistic shows for 4 days per hour, how often the door is opened per hour. This means how much is the restroom used in which hour. And this information is quite important for facility management companies who has to clean the bathroom. If you go to the airport or hotels where the clean, it's very important that the bathrooms are always clean. The company really installed such systems to understand when they have to go there again and to clean. And here you can see the distribution over the day, how often the bathroom is used. And here the same thing for the females. And here you can see, for example, if you compare the curves, the numbers from the male with the numbers of the female, you can see the bathroom of the females are by far not used so much like the bathroom of the mayor. And the reason for it, of course, the telecom, there's something, the groups which are coming to the design gallery, most of them, they're male people. So it doesn't mean that female people, women doesn't need to go so often to the bathroom. It just means in our case, in this scenario, the visitors much more men than women. Of course, we can have different types of we call these widgets. You can configure those. You can add new widgets to it anytime, like they look like this. But you can show different, for example, current value, CO2, temperature, and humidity in the presentation space, for example. So currently there are 743 ppm parts per million CO2. Actually, it gets critical. So in the normal case, it said that you should do something if you reach something like 1,000. So if you're in a meeting room and you measure 1,000, you should open the window. The temperature is 71. That's far too warm. So there must be something. Actually, this is a nice example where you really need to have an alarm. That because the best temperature for office space or for such kind of spaces between 20, a little bit above 20 and something like 22. So this 4 to 1 something need to be done there. And of course you see here the humidity, and also you can see if the temperature goes out of range, of course you get problems with the humidity as well. That's pretty normal. But here you can see the maximum values from today, the minimum values from today, and of course you can have again graphs for a day for different values. In this case, it's all the CO2, humidity, and temperature for different types of time periods. That's again the sensor plan which you already saw, just in the dashboard view. And last but not least, which is I like this actually very much. That's a heat map. So you can see here, maybe I go back, sorry for this. You can see here the walkway, and we installed motion sensors everywhere. And those motion sensors creates a kind of motion events within a specific time period. So every 5 minutes, they send the number of motion events, and something like no motion is 0, very much motion is something like 13 or 15. And between 0 and 15 expresses if there's much motion or little motion. And of course, many people create much motion. So, and if we go now to the flop heat map, you can see this is a heat map of, I think, of yesterday. You can see per hour where the people, so imagine there's a group, and the group, sometimes there are multiple groups, are with a guide going through this demonstration space, and they stop on different locations and get explained some stuff. So that's the heat map capability of Axonize. Good. Donna, I think that's it. Otherwise it gets too long.
Thank you, Roland. Thank you for your great demo. Thank you also to Yaniv. So at this point, I think we'll begin the question portion that you've been answering throughout the session. See the question.
Yeah, I got a question regarding protocols and data structure. So which can customers use basically?
So one of the core technologies of Axonize that we developed is the Axonize IoT Cloud Gateway, which enables us to connect to any type of protocol or data structure, device, no limits, within very short time, like hours. So we actually support all of them.
Maybe maybe I can complete this. Sorry, Janis, here's Roland.
Yes.
So what we are doing, to be concrete, is, for example, of course, we support everything what gets into the IoT hub, and the IoT hub supports HTTP, MQTT, and MQP. But of course, furthermore, we can support some other protocols like or system integrations in which we have to pull the data out of the system, because not all the systems with which we're integrating, they are able to forward the data and to push the data into Axonize. In many scenarios, we have to pull them out of the system, and again, by using, for example, web sockets or MQTT. So the standard public protocols. And actually, we have, for most of them, we have already with the customers already. We need to do this because there are really, really many different systems in place, and you know this. But yeah.
Thank you. I would have another question, Roland, while you on the phone. Can you tell me what are the top reasons for selecting Axonize as our top IoT platform partner?
Of course, I can answer this question from my perspective, because we at T-System, we are a kind of system integrator in many cases. So, but I think Janif wants to say something about this as well. But maybe I start and Janif can complete this. So why I like Axonize very much is because it's, on one side, it has got a really flexible IoT data model, because you have these device types or products, you have devices, and you can configure all this stuff by the GUI, by the application, by clicking. Then you can bring in relationship as you like these different type of events, so temperature, humidity, to the different device types. So it's really flexible, and and I saw other systems, other IoT platforms which are not that flexible, because they say they have a tight data model and it's quite restricted, and you have to bring the reality into this data model, and sometimes it's quite complicated. Such as, for example, you have sensors in the LoRaWAN, for example. You have always sensors, many sensors. You have a gateway and a gateway entity, and you want to have in your backend system, and the gateway entity acts as a kind of communication tunnel in your system, and this is actually possible with Axonize. It decouples the device object sensor from the device interface, for example, IoT hub, because everything is tunneled through the gateway. So you are really, really flexible, and the data model allows you to configure this in your system, which is out in the reality, and you don't need to do the different way around. You don't need to try to bring the reality in the modeling capabilities of your system. This is one thing, and the other thing is it's because it's sitting on top of Microsoft Azure. I really like to use. It's easy to integrate it with Azure Function and all the other platform systems of Microsoft Azure, which is really good for us to doing system integration. I think this model thing, the openness of the API, of course, but Janet, maybe I think you have some other good points.
I think the bad thing that customers likes about Axonize is, there are lots of IoT platforms out there, and most of them are targeting the smart product. As I mentioned before, the IoT market is split into two main segments: smart product and smart enterprise. Smart product are hardware manufacturers that want to connect their hardware, and smart enterprise are companies like Hilton, Walmart, Smart Building, Smart City, that do not manufacture their own hardware, but use lots of different hardware for different manufacturers, use the different protocols, as Roland mentioned. And Axonize is a platform that was built from ground up for the smart enterprise. That's how we stand out in this market. We provide a very easy way to connect to sensors, very easy way to build and deploy IoT project, and we can connect to any type of protocol device and application. So I think that would make the smart enterprise or the digital transformation a very easy to digest process.
Awesome, thank you. Any other questions? Then let me bring up one last question from my side. What are the biggest differentiators between Axonize and the competition?
So what I just mentioned is the main differentiation. All of them, as Axonize built from ground up for the smart enterprise, the speed, agility, and scalability that we provide in deploying IoT project is one fact, and the simplicity of using Axonize and connecting any type of device within your site, your building, your facility, without the need of engineering resources. That's what makes Axonize different than others, or better than others.
Are there any more?
Thank you so much.
All right. So if we're all good, I just wanted to direct everyone's attention to the chat window where I've posted a link to a short survey. Our presenters value your feedback and would greatly appreciate you taking a moment to fill out the survey. The survey scores are on a scale of from 1 to 5, 5 being the highest score possible. And all materials from today's presentation will be available on Microsoft Stream within 48 hours. Donna, did you guys have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. Please feel free to contact us with any questions that you may have. Access to our resources. Like he said, we do have access. We do have access to a free trial on our website. So please feel free to log in and try us out for free. And again, thank you for joining us. And I hope all of you have a wonderful rest of the day.
And I'd like to thank the presenters from Axonize and T-Systems. This does conclude our presentation today. You guys have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.